The Euphrates River is on the verge of complete drought. Once the cradle of civilization, the flow of this vital river has now diminished by over 60% in the last century. This reduction is a result of dams and irrigation projects in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. Even across the globe, numerous rivers are experiencing extreme droughts. These transformations are so significant that they can even be seen from space. But what's more frightening is new findings that seem to link prophecies from not just the Bible but from the Quran as well. And it's slowly becoming more apparent that this appears to be more than just a mere coincidence. As shocking revelations and discoveries of gold around the river point to an ominous foretelling by the Prophet Muhammad, we can only ask ourselves, are the end times near? Is all this our fault? And could the birthplace of civilization also foretell its end? In the mid-1980s, the Euphrates was dammed by Saddam Hussein's government, flooding a 120-mile-long stretch of land near Iraq's border with Syria. At least 75 archaeological sites had been partially excavated before the area was flooded, flooding the remnants of civilizations from 3000 BC to the Sumerian and Roman periods, including ancient Jewish settlements. However, the receding waters have allowed access to some sites for the first time, such as a cliff with a series of pre-Christian tombs carved into its face. Other than severe damming, numerous other factors contribute to the drying up of the Euphrates River, such as droughts, water policies, and misuse. As a result, many families in Iraq who depend on the river for water are experiencing desperation. The primary cause of the Euphrates River depletion is low rainfall. Iraq is currently experiencing the worst drought in history. Additionally, the region is grappling with climate change and rising temperatures, which have been ongoing problems for decades. The consequences of the river drying up are severe, with over 7 million people affected, and crop failures leading to more than 800 families migrating from the villages along the river. Regrettably, the Tigris River, another important biblical river, is also experiencing declining water levels and drying up. This development has presented a new opportunity for archaeological findings, with many believing that human civilization began in ANBAR next to the Euphrates River. While it was previously thought that ANBAR was only a desert with no historical significance, it is now understood that this area is one of the most important archaeological regions in all of Iraq, and the first to be settled in human history. However, Iraq has lost over 2/3 of its vegetation because of this drought, and the current situation remains alarming for farmers, many of them looking at a season without income, and for the whole Iraqi population amid severe tensions on food commodity markets. The drought has also revealed previously undiscovered sites, including a potential Roman-era irrigation ditch buried under the soil when the area was excavated decades ago. This unexpected discovery has raised concerns about looting, as just 10 guards protect vulnerable archaeological sites in all of ANBAR. Worries arise because the area is rich with valuable artifacts, such as jewelry, coins, and documents. Professional thieves or struggling locals might be tempted to loot the sites. The river is now only 3 to 4 feet deep, and strange structures, such as a crumbling stone arch, now jut out of the water. Artifacts including clay jars, old bones, coins, and even some gold jewelry have also been discovered. While this might seem like good news to some, for many this was a horrifying discovery, as they believe this to perfectly match a prophecy from the Quran. In a hadith by the Prophet Muhammad, it is said, "The hour will not come to pass before the river Euphrates dries up to unveil the mountain of gold, for which people will fight. 99 out of 100 will die in the fighting, and every man among them will say, 'Perhaps I may be the only one to remain alive.'" Now, not only is gold being found in the river, but many gold reserves have just been discovered in Turkey. In a particularly concerning instance, residents of Turkey's Ilich district have reported a dramatic decrease in farming and livestock production. This decline is attributed to a cyanide pond that has inflicted considerable harm on the environment. In fact, the villagers have gone as far as to label the pond the second Chernobyl because the damage caused by this chemical disaster is both widespread and devastating. Reports of the death of birds and the rapid decline in bee numbers due to the pond are just the tip of the iceberg. In January 2022, locals visited the cyanide pond and were absolutely shocked to find a massive crimson pond the size of 192 football fields, with a depth of 1,280 meters. This pond is located dangerously close to the Euphrates River, which is the primary water source for the entire region. Other clean water sources and active fault lines are also located close to the pond, further exacerbating the severity of the situation. The damage caused by the cyanide pond has affected livestock activities and cheese production in the area. The animals are dying at an alarming rate, and people are pouring lime on their graves because the cyanide-contaminated corpses are not even touchable. The number of bees is rapidly decreasing, and the birds are dying after flying over the pond and falling into it. It's a truly tragic situation, and the aftermath of the chemical disaster caused by the mining company has left the surrounding area uninhabitable and caused irreparable damage to the ecosystem. The greed that drove the company to resort to such destructive practices is a troubling reminder of the darker side of humanity. The prophecy referenced in the Hadith warns of this very outcome, and it seems that history is repeating itself once again. But there's more to be worried about, as this event is not only predicted by the Quran but also mentioned in the Bible. Specifically the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse 12. It states that another angel will dry up the river, so the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. This refers to an unavoidable war that will lead to the demise of humanity, referred to in a later passage as Armageddon. People have been investigating parts of the Euphrates River that were once underwater and have come across some eerie findings. They've discovered caves and caverns with strange shapes that don't resemble any familiar man-made structures. The river basin has been the source of fear for many who have viewed recently recorded videos, as they depict an alarming sound that seems to be emanating from deep within it. The unearthly growling accompanied by the sound of chains being dragged, suggesting that something may be bound and yearning to be released. According to local belief, these sounds are attributed to imprisoned fallen angels. The similarity of these sounds to descriptions in biblical passages has led some to interpret them as an unfolding prophecy. The coinciding drought, which is also referenced in the Bible, is also a cause for concern. The biblical prophecies in Revelations chapter 9 and Ezekiel chapter 38 refer to a catastrophic conflict that will commence as the life-sustaining Euphrates River dwindles to a mere trickle. The Euphrates is called the Great River 5 times in Scripture. It was the eastern boundary of Israel's territory. To some extent, the river protected Israel because it was difficult to cross, and a wilderness to the west separated it from Canaan, the Promised Land. It flows almost 2,000 miles towards Palestine before making its way southeast to the Persian Gulf. In the 1st century, when Revelation was written, the Euphrates divided east from west, and the kingdoms of China and India lay beyond it to the east. With tensions mounting and resources dwindling, many fear that a conflict for resources will soon emerge, whether over greed or pure necessity. It's easy to see how greed for wealth and resources can lead to catastrophic consequences, as evidenced by the chemical disaster caused by the mining company. The warnings in religious texts should serve as a reminder to all of us that we must be responsible custodians of the earth and its resources. We must find ways to coexist and share resources, rather than resort to violence and destruction. Only then can we hope to avert the disastrous consequences the prophecies warn of.